everyone, and welcome to Dallas Hoops Fancast, a podcast for Mavs fans. I'm your host, Sydney, and I'm here with my co-host, Martin.
Hey, guys.
You can follow the show on Twitter at Dallas Hoopscast. You can follow me on Twitter at _Sydney Myers, and you can follow Martin on Twitter at Martin L. Myers. Remember, you can listen to new episodes and read exclusive articles at DallasHoopscast.com, where you can also read the latest breaking news. I'm working on a new article for DallasHoopscast.com. It's going to come out in January. I'm really excited about it. I think Mavs fans are going to like it a lot. But in the meantime, there's an article up where Martin listed his top 5 games to watch for this month, and that's a monthly series. So in January, he'll have his next top 5 games to watch for that month. We're going to talk about the Mavericks schedule in December, for the rest of December, because it is brutal. But first, I wanted to start the show off with a little bit of trivia. I shared this on Twitter, and it was so amazing. I just feel like I have to share it here in case anyone listening is not following me. So it's about how the Mavericks got their name, which you probably know. They came into the league. A local radio station hosted a contest and invited Mavs or fans to send in submissions for what they thought the name of the team should be. And then they sent those submissions to Don Carter, and they could choose the name. So once the name Mavericks was chosen, the fans who suggested that were entered into a drawing to get season tickets. But what's interesting is the number of people who suggested the name Mavericks. Would you like to guess, Martin?
77.
41.
Just as good.
I mean, no, better. That completely blew my mind when I saw that, because when I saw it, I was like, no.
What are the chances?
I know. Yeah. I was like, no freaking way. And I found an archived version of an article that was published on NBA.com. So I know it's legit. And it said this very thing, that the number of people that wrote in and submitted the name Mavericks, 41 people.
And for those of you that don't know,
we're Mavericks fans.
No. For those of you that don't know, Dirk wore the number 41.
Oh, yes. I feel like that is also just as obvious as us being Mavericks fans.
You ruined the joke. The joke was going to be how obvious. No,
I made it better.
You ruined it.
I made it better. Anyway, another little tidbit piece of trivia. The Mavericks' first game as a franchise was against the San Antonio Spurs. Did you know that? And they also won that game, which I thought was interesting, because I was like, man, I can imagine after that game, everyone was like pumped up and like, yeah, we're here. We have arrived, and, we're going to be competitive and all this stuff. And little did they know that, the Spurs would be like the big brother, as Dirk called them, to the Mavericks. And the Mavs went on to go like 4-16 or something over their next 20 games. It was not a good start, but we got that win.
We got that
all the losses that we've had against the Spurs. We got that win. Anyway, just some trivia. It's research I was doing for that article I was talking about that's coming out in January. There's some other little nuggets that I've been finding that are super interesting that I might share on Twitter. But anyway, I wanted to start with that. So, something else I shared on Twitter, moving on to the actual topics for the podcast. I asked this question because, I don't know, it sounds crazy, but I feel like it's legit. The question was, are the Mavericks a championship team? And I know when you hear that, it's like, whoa, slow down. No, they're not. But I was like, I mean, seriously.
So are you asking, are they contenders, or could this team win it all?
I mean, I guess in the question, I'm saying, could this team win it all? Now, when I ask that, I don't even know if I believe that, but I think it's worth. I think they're at the point where it's a conversation we can have. I think we're at the point where you can say it and someone doesn't think you're a complete idiot.
Well, I mean, they're third in the West record-wise.
Yeah.
They are tied. Well, they have the number one offensive rating at 116.9 points.
One of the greatest offenses of all time.
Per 100 possessions.
Of all time.
Yes. They are currently 14th in defensive rating, and that it went up to 12 for a minute and then back down to 14. I think
Yeah.
after the Kings game.
Well, and I thought at one point they were 8th in
No,
offensive
no,
rating.
no,
Okay.
No, I don't think they ever got that high. But net rating, they are currently tied for second at 9.4.
Yeah.
But let's look at these teams here, the top 10 teams in overall net rating.
Okay.
Number 10, you have the Denver Nuggets. A lot of people would say they're contenders. Number 9, the Houston Rockets. Another team that a lot of people say are contenders.
I don't.
Well, for the sake of argument, let's just say that most people consider these teams to be.
Well, I don't. Next. What's next on your list?
That's the end of the list.
What's next on the list?
Number 8.
Wait, we're already on number 8? Oh, did you start at number 10? Okay, clearly I wasn't paying attention very well. Okay, continue on with your list.
Can I just start over my point here?
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay, so if you look at some of the top 10 teams in overall net rating, and I think that going into the season, most of these teams, most people thought were contenders. And this is kind of the level of play that they're playing at right now. Number 10, you have Denver Nuggets. I think a lot of people consider them to be contenders in the West. Maybe not win it all, but contenders. The Houston Rockets are number 9. Obviously, the same way. I mean, they have James Harden. People thought they got better with Russell Westbrook. Then you have Philadelphia at 7. Toronto at 6. Most people didn't see them there. The Clippers at 5. Boston at 4. Dallas at 3. Well, actually tied with Los Angeles for 2. The Lakers and Milwaukee at number 1. So most of those teams people thought coming into the season were going to be the top or the best teams in the league. And the Mavericks are right there with them. So can they contend? I definitely think they can contend with a lot of these teams. They've beaten some of them already.
True.
Can they win it all? I don't know. I think it depends on Porzingis, in my opinion, because when you get deep in the playoffs, everybody's good at defense. It's who can score despite how good the defense is. And you need people that can put the ball in the basket. I know Luka is one of those guys. Porzingis is going to have to help.
Yeah, I think, when I think about it, that's a good point about are they contenders or can they actually win it all? Because I think there is a difference there. And so when I think about it, I kind of relate it back to like the Thunder when they were sort of young, or other teams like that, kind of like the Trailblazers maybe last year, or the Warriors when they hadn't won yet, they were still kind of young. Like, as a fan of those teams, you felt like, yeah, we're really good. I mean, these guys are amazing. We're winning 50 plus games. Like, yes, we are contenders. But as a person on the outside that, maybe knows what it takes or has seen what it takes to win a championship, like, they're just missing that thing. And you don't quite know what it is yet. You just know that they're too young. They can't do it yet. And so as a Mavs fan, I think, yes, they are really good. And Luka, I feel like, can do anything. And, the offense, the defense, the net rating and all this stuff. But I have to, like, if I look at it objectively, I think, they're like those teams that were really good, but were just too young. And they couldn't quite get over the hump yet.
I agree 100%. But I feel like Luka is on another level. Like,
yeah.
if you're looking at the Thunder, the young Thunder, a young Durant, the argument could be made. In fact, there is no argument. Luka's better than Durant.
Than he was
at this age. Yeah. And it's not even close.
Yeah.
Same with a young Steph Curry, a young Klay Thompson. All of these younger teams, yes, those superstars were kind of becoming who they were.
Yeah.
But Luka is just already at another level. I'm not saying he's got to prove it in the playoffs. And I think it's a lot to ask for a 20-year-old second-year player to dominate in the playoffs. But if anybody can do it,
It would be him.
It would
yeah.
be him, yeah.
So when I posted this on Twitter, I got a bunch of responses, and so I wanted to share them, and then we can also, go through and share our thoughts. And one guy brought up the point that you just brought out about experience. Daniel, I'm going to mispronounce his last name, so I'm just going to say it's at Dizzy_214. He said, I think the gap is experience. We haven't been in those dogfights to know how to come out the other side. I think we'll get our hearts broken once or twice and then become a dynasty. And I think that's kind of like what you're saying. It's just that experience of what it takes. Like, these players know basketball. They know how to play. They know how to be good. They know how to shoot and rebound and all that. But there's that experience of like what it's like in the playoffs and how you take your game to the next level. And we saw that against the Clippers. Like, they had another level and the Mavericks don't. And I think that experience is something that it gives you something that it's not tangible.
Yeah, and I don't know if I think you look at any of the great teams in history of the league. I doubt any of them won it all their very first year of being great. They probably Jordan got eliminated by the Pistons. I think 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I was thinking only the Celtics is the one I can remember with Ray Allen and Garnett and.
Well, that was a little different because you had the accumulation.
They were already veterans.
Yeah, and you had 3 stars at that point. But
the
they were
Heat,
already veterans.
Yeah, even the Heat didn't win their first year.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think it's a lot to ask. I think a lot depends on, how far they go in the playoffs kind of depends on the matchups.
Yeah.
Who they go against.
And that was one point. So the other tweet I was going to bring out from Jeremy Morris, he said, Clippers are really, really good. They're built for the playoffs, and we don't match up super well with them. But there isn't really any more moves that allow us to match up well outside of adding someone like Drummond. So in terms of like trades, could they get better? He said, I say we roll with this. We can hang with anyone else. And so that was one point that I was making is like the Clippers are the only team that really scares me. And so if, like you were saying, the matchups, if they fall the right way to where the Mavs don't face them until maybe the conference finals or maybe not at all, then I think that really helps the Mavs.
But the Mavericks have seen what the Clippers did, that same kind of style of defense. They've seen that since that Clippers game.
True.
And they broke through it. I mean, they saw it with the Lakers, and Luka really struggled in the first half. But really in the first quarter. In the second quarter, he kind of figured some things out in that Lakers game in Los Angeles. So, I mean, who knows? Let's see what happens when we play them again. We see them again this month, I believe, or maybe next month. We have the Clippers again.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens. I mean, maybe the Mavericks have figured something out, and maybe they don't scare us at all. But, I mean, am I saying they're going to beat the Clippers? No, I don't believe they would in a series. I don't think they would beat the Clippers. I think they could take the Lakers only because of the style, the matchup is kind of in the Mavericks' favor because the Lakers just don't have shooting, and Carlisle is the king of beating teams that don't have shooting.
Well, their zone defense,
yes.
It takes, like, you have to be able to shoot threes.
Yep.
And so it's not quite as effective as it used to be because most teams can shoot threes. But against a team like the Lakers, you can zone and they don't have shooters.
The zone also prevents people from getting in the paint. And that's what LeBron, his primary thing is, getting into the paint and then either finishing in the paint or dishing out. They've beat LeBron before with the zone because of that very reason.
Yeah.
So I think the Lakers would be a favorable matchup. I
think the Rockets would be.
I think we would beat the Rockets, the Nuggets,
the Jazz.
The Suns. None of those teams scare me. I think the Mavericks are better than all of those teams.
Yeah, like I don't want to get cocky or anything, but just I feel like I'm looking at it objectively, and I think they could beat the Rockets. Now, I don't know. I mean,
everybody beats the Rockets in the playoffs.
True. I mean, on the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets beat them.
The Rockets got beat last year by the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
They got beat by the Spurs. They just lose in the playoffs because the Harden effect, he's not as good in the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. He's just not as good.
Well, they don't call fouls the same way, and it's a problem. Here's another good comment from JH @_J. Actually, I'm just going to do JH. I'm going to mispronounce all these. Okay. He said, need another star. I don't think Porzingis will be that guy. And one guard that can be a really great defender. Now, we've talked about Porzingis. He's obviously struggled this year. We've said in the past that we don't think that this year is going to be any indication of what he'll be like for the rest of his career. But I guess if we are talking about are they a championship team now, then yeah, this
Well,
year
that's
is
what I
relevant.
said. It does depend on
Yeah.
Porzingis. I do believe he is a superstar. I still believe in him.
He just might not
He's
be
just
that
not
this year.
Yeah, maybe not this year, or maybe later on this year we see a little bit more of it. One guy tweeted that he can feel his Porzingis breakout game in his bones.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, that's the best way to describe it. That's how I feel. At some point, he's going to break out of all this, and it's going to click, and things are going to move forward. So I don't believe they need another star. I think you just need quality role players and role players that actually can hit big shots in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or in big games, because really how you win in the playoffs is you have role players that show up in big moments. They're not stars, but they show up in big moments, and that's what helps you win. So I think you need to get those guys. I think they have Porzingis and Luka set. I think that it's the other guys that matter. It remains to be seen. Maybe some of the guys they have are those people. I don't know.
So he brought up they also need a guard that can be a really great defender. And so this kind of goes into trades, because part of my question when I tweeted this was, if they're not contenders now, what moves do you think they should make to become a contender? And so that's why he brought up getting a guard that can be a really great defender. Like, do you agree with that? Do you think they should be, like, a lot of people brought out like this one comment from at Ashish Airy. I am sure I mispronounced that, but a lot of people said the same thought. He said, I like what we have. Their chemistry is so good right now. I don't want to trade any picks away. If anything, we just need an elite rebounder or someone to lock down the paint. But that idea of like not wanting to ruin the chemistry, a lot of people said the same thing, and I kind of feel the same way. So it's like, yeah, they need to make improvements, but I'm so afraid to mess with the chemistry.
Well, it's the right kind of improvements. I don't think we need a elite rebounder. I think our rebounding is actually pretty good this year in the league. We're 10th right now in rebounding percentage. In defensive rebounds, we're 4th in the league total. So I think we're actually a pretty decent rebounding team.
Yeah, and that's probably because Porzingis is way above his career average, and Luka obviously is a freak.
Yeah.
So
now, points in the paint, where do we rank with that one? We're 17th, so we're a little bit on the bad side.
But
and
I think a
that
lot of that's Porzingis not being himself.
in the beginning, but you see even the change with him lately.
Yeah.
Really, the last 10 games, as far as defense, he's been really good. But yeah, that's also a factor. Porzingis is a really good rim protector. He's just not Porzingis yet.
Well, I was talking about the points in the paint, how we're, whatever you said, 17th
Not
or something.
Defensively.
Oh, I see what you mean.
We're
Okay,
17th, so we're on the lower end. We allow 48 points per game in the paint, and the Milwaukee Bucks are number 1 in the league at 40. So it's not like it's a huge gap.
Okay.
So I don't know if we need either one of those. To me, the way the roster is set up is the way it needs to be set up, with the athletic wing 2 guard, Tim Hardaway, the defensive 3-and-D guy, Dorian,
Yeah.
the 4 spacer, Porzingis, and then the rim roller in Powell. Those are the right kind of players.
The structure is there.
Just the upgrade of them.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest upgrade you can have is that 3-guard spot, Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah, I agree. And that's so. Like that guy saying they need a guard that can defend really well. I think you could say, Finney-Smith, that spot, guard or forward.
A wing.
Yeah, this other guy, Carlos, he said the same thing. We still need a 3-and-D guy. And so, like, my first thought was, well, Dorian Finney-Smith has actually become a really good 3-and-D guy. I mean,
he's become a good defender. He's still not a good
but
3-point shooter.
He's much better. I feel whenever he shoots it now, I'm not upset because it normally goes in. And he's, like, I've trashed him a lot in the past, but this year he's grown a lot and has become a very good 3-and-D guy. That being said,
what I think, though, that would put them over the edge as far as championship team or not is you need an elite 3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
An elite 3-and-D guy is a guy that can get his shot off no matter what, whenever he catches and shoot. Even if the defense closes out or Klay Thompson sometimes shoots with a guy right there in his
True.
face.
Finney Smith is often wide open.
Yes.
So
And Tim Hardaway Jr., that's kind of what makes him so valuable within the starting lineup, because he can just rise up above the defender and shoot it, because Tim Hardaway Jr. is very athletic. He's got great size, great length. He's a decent defender. He's not a lockdown defender, but he's a decent defender.
He's been better lately.
Yeah. And but he can catch and shoot with the best of them. Doesn't always make it, but when he's on, he's on. And I feel like Tim Hardaway is going to be one of those guys in the playoffs. If he gets hot in a playoff series, he stays hot the whole series. The next series, he might go ice cold. But Carlisle's great
Like
at
Jason
finding
Terry.
somebody else that can contribute. So I think, that 3-and-D, if you had Klay Thompson at that small forward, to me, this team is a championship team.
Yeah. No, and somebody else mentioned that. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but they said add Klay Thompson to this team in their ship. And I was like, well, yeah, obviously I would love to have Klay Thompson, but
They just don't grow on trees.
that's not happening. Yeah. And so, that brings up the other point of like, okay, so they need a 3-and-D guy. Well, who is that? I mean, who's available? Like you said, these guys don't grow on trees. You can't just go outside and pick one up. So it's like, how many elite 3-and-D guys are there in the league? And then second of all, what team would give that guy up?
For nothing, yeah.
Like when you find that, you don't really want to give that up. And we can get into trades a little bit later on, because there's been some new stuff about Iguodala and Kevin Love, which I know a lot of people have talked about, but there's that a lot of people talked about how they need a guard, that like a 3-and-D guy. Peter Hogan at Pistol Pete Hogan, cool name by the way, brought out a good point. He said the Mavs bench is really good, but come playoffs, they won't be able to take advantage of weaker benches because other teams don't play their bench in the playoffs. I think they needed to find a solid third starter or defined sixth man to take the next step. I think in terms of, we're talking about benches and to get off of the 3-and-D guy, I think a defined sixth man maybe is more important than a third starter. Like you said, I mean, they have Porzingis. There's no 3 all-star teams anymore.
Really, what your bench does in the playoffs is doesn't get destroyed while your stars are on the bench.
And coaches just don't play. They don't go 9 or 10 or 11 deep like they do in the regular season. And that's why I think he was saying that a defined sixth man that's like kind of like a sixth man of the year candidate, even if he doesn't win it, is so important.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw a name out there, and they're a restricted free agent next summer. Now, there's a couple things that have to go the Mavs' way in order for this to work out.
Okay.
In the past, I was never a huge fan of this person, but this year,
Jason Tatum.
No, very, very close though.
Oh, I know who you're going to say.
Jaylen Brown,
yeah,
is a restricted free agent. That's important because they have locked up so much money on Gordon Hayward and Kemba Walker.
Well, some people think Hayward is gone.
Well, they would have to trade him. Okay, so then I take Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
But let's say, so in order for the Mavericks, I believe, to have any money, is Tim Hardaway's going to have to opt out of his contract. That doesn't mean he's going to leave. He's just got to opt out.
Yeah.
The best case scenario for the Mavs is Tim Hardaway Jr. averages 17 points a game this year on pretty decent efficiency on a winning team. He's going to opt out because he's going to get a long-term deal.
Yeah.
My belief is the Mavericks really like Tim Hardaway. They will kind of communicate with him, have him opt out, and he'll re-sign with Dallas. But what that'll do is once he opts out, it gives them cash to spend in free agency. Of course, this is freaking fantasy land. The Mavericks never sign anybody. But I'm just saying there's a chance they can have some money this summer.
Yeah. Do you think, so the idea of them getting a more defined sixth man, do you think that's important? Because right now, who is their sixth man?
No, I mean, I don't think that matters.
Just having a solid bench, basically.
Yeah, just having a solid team.
Well, yeah, but we're trying to get specific
well, the bench,
here.
the bench, is important to have, but I don't think you need to have like the 6th man of the year type of guy coming in. Personally, no, I don't think so.
Okay, let me go through and read some of these other comments. There's a lot of people that, like I said, are saying that they need another shot creator, they need another 3-and-D guy, or a wing defender. So a lot of people are saying that. And I mean, like, I agree, even though I think Finney-Smith has developed really well. You have to
You need an
be able to
elite.
upgrade somewhere.
He's
Like,
not.
yeah.
He's not elite.
Yeah. So talking more about trades and options, Triple Doncic at Reginald DeClue1. He said, I'm willing to roll with what we got. Iggy may be a decent pickup, but not sure how he would fit. I think he may be a bench guy who may be a spot starter, depending on the team. Only other position I'd look at is rim rolling power forward who can play defense and rebound. He probably is with us on Dwight Powell, but not many of those. Something trailed. Oh, not many of those players. Yeah. So Iguodala, not being sure where he would fit. You seemed surprised by that.
Well,
he would take Dorian Finney-Smith's
yes,
spot.
he would.
No, and you brought up a good point about Iguodala is that he has the ability to be a playmaker, and I think that's important because a lot of times Finney-Smith has to put the ball on the court.
And it's a turnover.
Yeah, and it's a turnover because it's just not his game, whereas Iguodala can do that.
Well, that's going to help you also when you play teams that double Luka. You need somebody else that can carry the load offensively, making plays. Dorian can't do that. If Luka gets in a tough position and Dorian has to do something, it's usually going to end up in a turnover.
Now, on the other hand, Tim Hardaway can do that.
He can, but you got to have as many as possible.
Yeah, true.
You're talking about Andre Iguodala, former All-Star, Finals MVP. The dude literally won the Finals MVP for his defense alone on LeBron. He is an elite defender, and he is one of those guys that plays better when you need him to. That's why he's so important, and that's why I think the Mavericks should want him. Whether they're going to get him or not, I don't know. But to me, as much as they love Dorian Finney-Smith, Iguodala is just on another level.
So, okay, so first of all, Chris Harrington from the Daily Memphian posted an article talking about potential trade targets for Andre Iguodala, because the word is, yeah, he wants to go to the Lakers, but
or the Clippers.
Yeah, but there's zero chance that the Grizzlies
good for them
buy him. Yeah, they it's just not going to happen. So he talked about some potential suitors, but like as far as Iguodala on the Mavs, my only concern, and I've said it before, is like one, he's older, two, he hasn't played this year at all. And then three, does he even want to be here? And I mean, we can talk ourselves into like, yeah, why wouldn't he want to be here? But it's like,
well, you'd have to ask.
Well, but again, it's like going back to the Rondo trade, which I know we shouldn't talk about, but everyone assumed when he got here, he was on an expiring deal. So we all assumed like, oh, they must have talked to him and he said, yeah, I want to be here. I want to play. And it turns out that I don't think that actually happened. And so like we can assume like, oh yeah, just talk to him. And if he comes here, he wants to, and it's like, well, that's not necessarily true. He might not want to be here.
It's different circumstances with Rondo though, because Carlisle didn't want Rondo. And he made sure that it didn't work. To me, if Iguodala is good with coming to Dallas, and I think the fact what helps is that you're third in the West, and you have a budding superstar, and you have a really young quality team, so he's going to go to the playoffs here with the Mavericks. So yeah, you'd have to confirm if he wants to come here or if he'd be willing to come here before you make the trade. You're not giving up anything. I wish we can find a way to keep Courtney Lee and trade for Iguodala, but I understand that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, but still, he's older, and is he motivated?
Okay, but you're trading Courtney Lee.
You're saying the risk is low enough.
Yeah, the risk is so low. Even if he can't contribute anymore. You didn't hurt the team at all. You didn't hurt the chemistry at all.
But what if it does hurt the chemistry?
I mean, I don't know how it would, but if he comes in and is a problem, you just cut him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see, it's such a low risk, high reward type of move. I don't see how you don't do it.
So Chris Harrington in this article, he talked about some of the potential targets. The Lakers were on here, but he was like, it would have to be probably for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Avery Bradley, neither of which the Grizzlies are really interested. The Clippers could give up maybe Maurice Harkless or Jerome Robinson and maybe a first-round pick, but not like a whole lot there, but that is an option. The Mavericks, they have Courtney Lee, the Warriors' second-round pick, and maybe Justin Jackson. He said they might have to throw in Justin Jackson too.
I don't do that then.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean that's part of it. So he gave some scenarios. Again, that's on the Daily Memphian if you want to read the article. I'm like, as far as Iguodala, I like the idea of him, a playmaker, an elite defender. He fits right in, but when I look at it realistically, I see other things like his age. Is he in shape? Is he motivated? There's so many things that I'm like, I don't think he would be like that much of a difference maker anyways. So it's like, I mean, it's not like we're talking about getting, prime Iguodala or Bradley Beal. It's like, so I'm like, is it even worth it? Like, should we even?
That's why you don't give up much for him.
True, yeah.
If it's just Courtney Lee and a second round pick, I know people are like, I don't want to give up my second round pick. Come on, this is a second round pick.
But it's a high second round pick.
It doesn't matter. Like, the chances of this person being good is so remote.
Even making the team.
Yes, or even making the team. It's so remote that it's not an asset. Why the Grizzlies? Oh, throw that in there. Why would they even care? I don't know. To me, you give them the second round pick.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve the Mavs any purpose whatsoever.
So another option or another player that Chris mentioned was Jae Crowder. He didn't talk about him really at all. It was sort of just an aside. Like, everyone's talking about Iguodala, but Jae Crowder might also be available. And I kind of perked up when I heard that. Like, because
he's a Carlisle guy.
He's a Carlisle guy. When he was here, first of all, he played like a veteran from day one. His hustle on defense, he was the only guy that would consistently close out on three-point shooters no matter what. He's tough.
I love his mindset. I love how he's annoying to other teams. He gets in people's faces. I would love Jae Crowder.
Yeah.
And if I would love Jae Crowder, and he's a much better 3-point shooter than Dorian. And if his defense is anywhere remotely close to what Dorian does, you have to bring him in, because that would be, I mean, he's not elite, but he's an upgrade at the small forward position.
So yeah, that's kind of the point, is like, he's averaging 10.5 points, 6 rebounds. He's shooting 32% overall on threes. For his career, he's a 34% shooter. So, like you said, it's
way better. I mean, Dorian is 29%
for his career, but this year, let me look at his numbers to see what he's shooting from the 3-point line this year.
You also need to look at corner threes, because that's basically where all of Dorian's threes come from.
Dorian is shooting 33% on 3-pointers this year. He's averaging 8.5 points, 5 rebounds. So, like you said, Jae Crowder, he is an upgrade, I think, over Finney-Smith, but it's not like he's an elite player.
No.
Now, again, if you're giving up nothing to get him, then what are we even talking about? And not that Courtney Lee is nothing. I hate saying that about players. It's not that he's nothing. It's just he doesn't play is all. And so you're not losing anything on the court in terms of production. Now, Courtney Lee might bring other things in terms of chemistry that we can't quantify, that would be the Mavs decision.
The locker room guy.
Yeah, but in terms of just a basketball decision of what you get on the court, yeah, Jae Crowder he's not elite, but he is an upgrade over Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah. It's an idea. It's a thought that Chris brought up, and it kind of got me interested a little bit. So speaking of trades, the other guy that Mavs fans have talked about a lot lately is Kevin Love. And a lot has been written about him. There's an article on The Ringer, I think it was Kevin O'Connor, that wrote about a lot of trade scenarios, but one of them involved Kevin Love. Brian Windhorst on his podcast, The Hoop Collective, they also talked about Kevin Love recently. It's known that he is available, and Mavs fans have talked about him. Now, there was Brian Windhorst on that podcast. They brought up a good point. Like, you have to, don't just think about current Kevin Love 2019, 2020. You have to think about Kevin Love in 3 years, because his contract is just getting started. And so if you get him now, you're not just getting, 30-year-old Kevin Love. You're also going to be paying him $30 million when he's 33, 34 years old.
Yeah, but, I love how players decline quicker and quicker every year.
Well, but he has had injury problems.
No, I'm not saying with Kevin Love, I think you could make an argument for that, but a player is still really good even at 33 and 34 years old.
Well, yeah.
It's usually after that is when they start to decline. So you're still getting 3-4 really good years of Kevin Love.
But it's the contract still.
The contract sucks. It's $30 million a year. And for the Mavericks, I would love Kevin Love. I don't want his contract.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem is like, you know, they were talking about how Cleveland is going to see it as they're doing their trade partner a favor by giving them Kevin Love, this stretch four guy that can get rebounds like nothing else. You know, they're going to think they're doing
excellent shooter.
Yeah, but the other team is going to think that they're doing the Cavs a favor by taking that $30 million off of the Cavs books. And so it's like, you know, yeah, he kind of is an asset as a player, but at the same time, that contract is so big that the Cavs might think that they could get a lot for him, but in reality, they probably won't.
To me, no.
And I don't even know if Kevin Love fits in with what the Mavericks want.
I think that you could make it fit. I mean...
think about, he would probably fit into where Dwight Powell plays.
He just played the 5, yeah.
And, I mean, look at what Dwight Powell does. He's a rim roller. I don't know if Kevin Love is that kind of guy right now.
But
or was he ever?
But he's such a good shooter. You're still going to get that floor spacing.
They don't use Powell for
you
shooting.
Make it work. I mean, you're talking about a champion, a multiple-time All-Star. You're making an argument for Dwight Powell over Kevin Love. No, well, if you take out the offensive system that the Mavericks run, just take that out of it. Who would you rather have, Dwight Powell or Kevin Love?
So right now,
there's no argument.
Kevin Love, but he's 31 years old.
Okay, but you still got 3. He's not gonna die in 3 years. He's still gonna be a really good player. You're getting him at the end of his prime, not out of his prime.
My other point, like, about also the injury problems are real. Like last year, he played 22 games. Year before that, 59. Year before that, 60. So it's real.
I get the injury problems. Like I said, I would love the player Kevin Love. I do not want the contract. Yeah, so I think the Mavericks will not do anything.
I don't think so either. And that was kind of my point about the way that they use Powell and their offensive structures. No. The thing is, like, you can't throw that out the window. That's clearly how Carlisle wants to play.
But I think if let's say Donnie was like, I don't care, Carlisle, I'm getting Kevin Love.
Well, then that's Rondo all over again.
No.
I mean, that's
Carlisle
exactly
never
what happened.
liked Rondo to begin with.
Yeah. So if Carlisle
But I think he at least likes Kevin Love as a person. How do you not?
Yeah, true.
Anyways, the Mavericks aren't trading. I think you're better off going after.
I'm right and you're wrong. Some other guys that were mentioned in this article, other than Kevin Love, who a lot of people think might end up with Portland. Robert Covington, not necessarily linked to the Mavs, but you know,
if we could get him, obviously, I would love to have him.
Also, so the Thunder have made it apparent that Chris Paul, Danilo Gallinari, and Steven Adams are all available. Now, again, Kevin O'Connor, he didn't directly link them to the Mavs, according to his sources, but they are all available. And he said that the Thunder would be willing to take long-term contracts. This isn't necessarily like just dumping players and dumping salary. Like, if they can exchange that for value or young players.
I think it's more younger players, and then it may be long-term deals, but not $30 million.
Well, no, yeah. But it's not like they want picks and expiring contracts. Like, they would do a normal straight-up trade like you do.
Yeah. Personally, I love Steven Adams. I would love to have Steven Adams. I don't know how much the Mavericks like Steven Adams, but to me, that would be a great fit. He is a rim roller. He is a rim protector. He's a dog, you know, he's that dirty, you know, does the dirty work type of guy. I'd also like to try Danilo, bring him in and have him play the small forward.
Now, the only thing is your defense would go
Who's to
way
say,
down.
You know, have we even looked at Gallinari's defense? I mean, we're saying that because he's European. He's automatically not a good defender.
I mean, they talked about it in this episode that I was listening to of the Hoop Collective. Is when you watch him, he's kind of stiff. He doesn't move very well on the defensive end. So, I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers, but just based on that report, I assume that their defense would struggle. But I mean, I would like to have Danilo Gallinari. The defense kind of worries me. I would also love to have Steven Adams. And talking about the Mavericks' offensive structure, I think Steven Adams fits that more than a guy like Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, like I said, none of those guys were linked to the Mavericks, but they are available. Some other guys that are available: DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gay, and LaMarcus Aldridge. They're not available yet, but everyone kind of assumes either one or all of them.
Well, I can tell you,
available.
I don't have any sources.
Your sauces.
I don't have any sauces, but DeRozan's getting traded.
Why do you think that?
He's a free agent at the end of the year. He ain't re-signing. He ain't letting them lose tonight. He ain't re-signing with the Spurs, and I think the Spurs probably know that. I think he's gone. So I think he will be traded.
Why don't you think he's re-signing with the Spurs?
I don't, I just don't think.
You just have a feeling.
Yeah. I don't think the Spurs are that good. I don't think he wants to be in San Antonio.
I don't think LaMarcus Aldridge wants to be in San Antonio. No, I don't think Aldridge fits the Mavs, really.
No. Well, I mean, maybe, yeah.
At the 5, it would have to be the 5. Yeah, he would have to play
which is kind of what he plays anyways. Yeah. Do you take a chance at putting DeMar DeRozan as your 3?
No, because he can't shoot threes, and that just doesn't fit. Well,
but he's a free agent.
Yeah.
And you only give up Courtney Lee in a second-round pick.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that spot, it's been settled. It has that the 3 has to be able to shoot 3-pointers. I mean, so much so that they took a guy who was literally one of the worst 3-point shooters in the history of the NBA and were like, no, you're going to learn to shoot threes. Yeah. And they made him into it's so much of a defined role. That guy has to be able to shoot threes. And DeRozan just doesn't fit that. Now, Kevin O'Connor in this article on The Ringer did bring up some guys that have sort of kind of been linked to the Mavericks a little bit. Davis Bertans.
Ooh, take him in a heartbeat.
Marvin Williams, JJ Redick. Now, Redick isn't exactly available, but he said, because the Pelicans are struggling, they may look to move him for something else. Andre Iguodala, obviously, and Marcus Morris. Since the Knicks are a mess, if somebody else takes over, they might look to kind of move these guys that might have a little bit of value. So, none of those, that's not how the rumor mill is starting and those teams are talking, but it's just things he's kind of heard that the Mavericks might be interested in them, or maybe those players are a good fit for the Mavericks. So, I mean, and I like all those guys. I'm not going to, I don't even know if I want to talk about that very much because it's not even a really deep rumor right now, but it's a list of guys that he found to be kind of connected to the Mavericks. But honestly, my thing with trades right now, and again, like a lot of people said on Twitter, I'm just so afraid to mess with the chemistry. Yeah. And it's I know they're going to have to at some point because you can always get better and you can't be afraid. We were talking about this the other day together, so much through history, you see teams that they have a strong core. And it doesn't work. They're not really, they win, but not in the playoffs. And there's a clear weakness, but the core is so strong and they've invested so much, they don't want to ruin that core. And it's yeah, but you have to. And so, for the Mavericks, I don't want to ruin the chemistry. I don't want to mess it up. But at the same time, you can always get better. And if there's a move that makes you better, you got to do that.
If you're going to keep Luka, you got to win.
Yeah.
And, even though he gets attached to his teammates, he's 20 years old, he'll move on. Yeah. Seriously, he'll figure it out. And then 10 years into the league, it's just business is the way it is.
Yeah.
But if you bring in guys and you win championships, you're going to keep them. If you don't because you really like Dorian Finney-Smith and you never win, he's going to leave.
Yeah.
So to me, you got to always improve. Yeah. And that's why I'm a big guy for the Iguodala trade. It's such a low risk, high reward trade that I would make that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So, anyways, those are some trade rumors and our thoughts on trades. And again, our thoughts on if the Mavs are a championship team. You can tweet us again your thoughts on that and what you think of those trade options. The next thing I want to go into, talking about the Mavs being a championship team, we still kind of are early in the season, and they have been tested some, but the rest of this month of December, they are going to be tested a lot. They have a brutal schedule. So I want to share a tweet from Bobby Karalla talking about the Mavs' final 10 games of 2019. So only 3 of those 10 will be played at home. 7 of the 10 are on the road. 7 of those games will come against current playoff teams. 6 will come against teams with top 8 records in the league by win percentage. 2 will be played outside the U.S., which when you think about it is also brutal. And then as far as travel, they'll play as far east as Philadelphia and as far west as San Francisco. So it's a ton of travel, a ton of road games, and elite competition.
Yeah, I don't think they are going to do very well during this 10-game stretch.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people might panic because they aren't winning as many games. It looks like they're taking a step back. I don't think that's the case. I think once you get through this stretch of games, then you can breathe and get back to normal basketball. But I mean, you're after the Pistons game tomorrow in Mexico City. You have Miami at home, on the road in Milwaukee, Boston at home, on the road at Philadelphia, on the road in Toronto, Spurs at home, on the road Golden State, on the road Los Angeles.
On the road Oklahoma City.
On the road Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And then you go into January, which looks really nice. I mean, in January, you have Brooklyn at home, Charlotte at home, Chicago at home, Denver at home, Lakers at home.
Golden State on the road.
You have a 6-game homestand to start out the month of January.
So, I mean, it'll balance out. But like you said, in the rest of December, they face the best of the East, the Sixers, the Celtics, the Bucks, the Raptors.
These next 10 games, it's a win if you go 500.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds terrible, but if you go 500, that's a win.
You have some games that I think at this point we can say they should win these games. So Oklahoma City, Golden State, Detroit, those games I think
you have to win.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I mean, I'm not going to be like arrogant and say like, yeah, we're going to win those. But as far as their record, they are better than these teams. So that's 3 games that they should win. Miami, that's a close one. They're very close
Miami
to
scares
them.
me.
Yeah.
I think Miami is that's not a guarantee win there.
And then
Milwaukee on the road.
Yeah.
Which,
San Antonio, I mean, I would say that's a win.
That's a win, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Bucks and the Sixers on the road, both of those teams are unbeaten at home.
Yeah.
Now, at some point,
they're going to lose.
They're going to lose at home. So you're just increasing your percentages or your chances of winning on the road in those games. But that Bucks game is probably a loss.
Well, the Bucks have won like 15 games in a row
Again,
now.
Also beneficial to you because your
point,
percentages, you know, very few teams have gone on a run that long.
Yeah. So I think there's 4 games that you can say they should win or they have the ability to win, which means that they have to come out and play hard and win those games. That leaves 6 games that could be anything. Now, the only game that I think is like, okay, I think we can win that is probably the Lakers, just because they've beaten them twice already. I don't care what the record says, but they've beaten them twice. So that's another one you could say. But again, the rest of them...
Also, the Heat in Boston, the Heat and the Boston Celtics are not as good on the road.
Oh, okay.
They're really good at home. They're not as good on the road. And so you're getting both of them at home.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to... Any of your home games, I think you got to win. And then you got to try to steal a couple on the road.
Some of those, yeah.
The ones I think you can steal are the Lakers, Sixers, or Raptors.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough schedule. Like I said, if you go 5-5 or even 4-6, if you get out of this stretch of 10 games at 20-13 as your record, you got to be happy with that. I know you're going to probably fall, or we're going to fall in the standings, but that's going to resolve itself once we get into January and get out of this stretch of games.
So, you know, going back to how good is this team really? Are they a championship team? I think this stretch will, again, it'll tell us something. Not that they're going to go, 7-3 or 8-2, but if they go 5-5, I think it's like, okay, they're a
Yeah.
good team. If they go 3-7,
I don't
then
think that even says anything. It's not
I
just the
mean,
games. It's not just the teams they're facing. It's the
the
travel
schedule, yeah.
and the amount of games in such a short period of time. Like, it's a lot to ask of any team to come out of this like, well, yeah, we're gonna win it all. It's
Yeah.
like even if you struggled through this stretch, to me, it's more of a factor of the schedule
So
than.
what would you say would be like, oh wow, that they did really bad and they're not as good as I thought they were.
Well, I mean, if you lose to Detroit and you lose to the Spurs and to the Warriors.
So, and then
I
so
mean,
that means you
I don't
also
know.
lose the rest of those
I
games.
guess to me, 4-6 would be worst case.
Okay.
If you do 3-7,
Yeah.
then it's bad. But again, I don't know if I'm even panicking, just because of it's not just the level of competition; it's the travel,
Yeah.
and it's so much to ask for a team to just go in and do 7-3 against the best and traveling 5,000 miles.
So even if they went 2-8, you wouldn't be concerned.
I don't know. I mean, I
That's
guess it would be
interesting.
what if you lost 3 of them by last second shots? It's so much to consider
Yeah.
with that.
I feel like you're only saying that because you don't have a lot of confidence, and so you're just trying to convince yourself that you're okay with it.
Well, I am okay with it.
Okay.
I am okay with whatever their record out of this. I've never seen a schedule like this
Yeah,
before. I've
it
never
is.
seen the amount of travel that a team has to do in a 10-game stretch.
Well, especially when you think about before the season started, everyone thought the Spurs would be good. Everyone thought the Warriors would be good.
Imagine if they were.
If that, yeah,
Yeah,
if that had
it's.
followed suit, yeah.
I have never seen a stretch of games this difficult before. They literally are going on a tour
Yeah.
of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
And
The only thing that I can think of is the lockout year. They had a stretch of 9 games in 12 nights.
yeah,
And
that's
that
what
was,
this feels like.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they went like 3-6 or
I
something.
don't remember, but I remember their goal was just to get
500.
through it.
Yeah. Well, yes,
just to
get,
do it, just
and
to
in
play the games.
when I look at this schedule, I just get through it. Like
Yeah.
honestly, it's
to where you still like each other.
it's so
and
ridiculous
No
of
one
a
gets
schedule.
injured. As long as you come out of it, you still like each other. No one gets injured, and all of that. Then I mean, okay. So I'm gonna pick a record. I would say if they go 5-5, I expect 5-5. If they go 4-6, I'd be disappointed. Anything lower than that, 3-7, 2-8, I'm like, okay, this is fine. They're not as good as I thought they were, but okay, I understand. But I would be disappointed.
I don't know if we're understanding or fully comprehending the way this schedule looks.
No, I know, but I mean, you gotta win games.
Yeah, but you're asking a team to go from Milwaukee back home for Boston, all the way to Philadelphia, all the way to Toronto, then all the way back to Dallas, and then all the way to San Francisco. And to be fully energized.
And then,
we saw what they looked like against the Kings after they had played, what was it, 4 games in 7 nights or something like that?
I think so, something like that.
You're just tired.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're not as good as these teams. It's just they've been at home for 4 weeks and you've been traveling across the country. We're going from freaking Mexico City all the way up to Toronto.
No, you're going from Mexico City back home.
Yeah, but so my point is,
saying,
it's such a bogus schedule that I'm kind of like that season where just get through it. I don't care what happens, just get through the schedule, and then in January you got that 6-game homestand against a bunch of garbage teams.
Yeah, my only concern is if their record through this stretch is really bad, then you're talking about dropping way down. In the standings.
They're gonna drop in the standings,
but I mean like to 8th. Or maybe.
Well, no. I mean, they would have to
it's 10 games.
They'd have to lose all of them in order to fall all the way to 8th.
It's possible.
No.
Anyways, that's my other concern is just
they're gonna
that.
drop.
Yeah.
They're gonna drop. It doesn't mean they're gonna stay
Well,
down
even if
there.
they go 500, I think that probably means they drop.
Yeah,
So.
at least a couple of positions.
The moral of the story is that the rest of the schedule for December is a total crapshoot.
It's the worst schedule I've ever seen.
So maybe we should prepare ourselves now for just whatever bad things happen. Don't be upset. Don't freak out.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Prepare yourselves. This is the worst schedule I've ever seen for any team to ever have to go through in my life.
So if after a game I hear you talking about how Carlisle needs to whatever.
Carlisle gets a free pass in these next 10 games.
Carlisle gets a free pass.
He gets a free pass.
Okay. So, yeah, that's the schedule for the rest of December, and we'll see how they come out of it. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. But anyway, that's the episode. Thanks, guys, for listening. You can share your thoughts on all of these on the trades. If the Mavs are a championship team, their schedule for the rest of December. Let us know what you think. Remember, you can tweet us at Dallas HoopsCast. I'm at _Sydney Myers. Marty is at Martin L. Myers. And you can listen to new episodes on DallasHoopsCast.com. That's it for us. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.